Auzubillahiminash-shaytanir-rajeem. Bismillahir-rahmanir-rahim. Assalamualaikum. Ji ayanu pakhaira gale ni hao chunashume washmale. Oh hi gozaimas. Guten Morgen. Hola boyo privyet kaifa hal. Halishuma chatore. Ahlan wa sahlan marhaba. Buna mucho gracias. Fabi balli kare aaya. Hoş geldin ayo khuyamura chi batto chi hal jod kalimera khairutan. And a very warm welcome to everybody who's tuned into PTV World and are watching World this morning. On a very rainy Friday morning over here in Islamabad. Ladies and gentlemen, I happen to be Shehzad Khan, and with me, I'm really lucky that I've been joined by Miss Hajra Satti. We hope and pray that everybody out there is doing wonderfully well and that you're ready to kickstart your day with us. But first things first, hello Hajra, assalamu alaikum. How are you feeling today?
Walaikum assalam. Thank you so much for introducing me. Jama Mubarak to you and everyone who's watching out there. I think Islamabad has received a lot of rainfall and all of the thirst of the land I think might have dried up because there was a plenty of rainfall yesterday, and after such a long weather dry spell we are receiving that. And once again, like weather is always a conversation starter, intermittent rain continued in parts of the country as Met Office predicted more downpour with snowfall over hills till Saturday. According to Met Office, intermittent rainfall, thunderstorms with the snowfall over hills is expected in northwestern Balochistan, Khyber Pakhtunkhwa, Kashmir, GB, Punjab and Islamabad during the forecast period. Isolated hailstorm is also expected during this period. Heavy snowfall is also likely at few places in upper KPK and Kashmir during this period. It is said that heavy rainfall may cause road closures, slippery conditions in Mari, Galayat, Naran, Kahan, Dir, Sawat, Kohistan, Bansera, Aptabad and other areas, and possibilities of the landslide in hilly areas of KP, GB, Kashmir, Mari and Galayat during the forecast period. Right, and please make sure that you take necessary precautions whenever you plan to move out because of the excessive rain. There's a lot of clogging on the roads, and obviously because of the excessive downpour, we're also witnessing some sort of flooding on the streets.
Exactly. So, ladies and gentlemen, I guess that, it's an alert that we're giving out to our audiences as well. Please make sure and let your loved ones know that, that there's no need for you to take any sort of risk alongside your family. Once the weather is going to settle down, please feel free to go wherever you feel like going, all right? But in addition to this, is the Champions Trophy season. Unfortunately, I'm sorry I have to say this, Pakistan is out of the race because Pakistan ne un sare nu agge laya hai. We're at the bottom of the table. But Afghanistan will face Australia today in the 10th match of the ICC Champions Trophy 2025 at Gaddafi Stadium, Lahore. It's going to be quite a sight. On the basis of run rate, the South African team is at the first place and the Australian team is at the second place. Afghanistan team is at third place with 2 points. If Afghanistan loses the match against Australia, the Afghanistan team will be out of the race for the semi-finals. But if they won, then Afghanistan will have 4 points and will qualify for the semis. The second semi-finalist will be decided in the match between South Africa and England. If successful, South Africa will reach the semi-final. In case of failure, Australia and South Africa will be decided on run rate. Well, this is something which was supposed to happen in our group, but unfortunately it's happening in the other group now. And, so there's been a press conference by the Australian player as well. So Australia's middle order batsman, Marnus Labuschagne, stated that preparation for the upcoming match against Afghanistan are now complete with all focus directed towards the game. During a press conference at the Gaddafi Stadium, Labuschagne mentioned that due to rain, the team had to conduct indoor practice sessions. Mentioned we must be prepared to play in all types of conditions, and further stressed that the match against Afghanistan is vital as it will decide the team's progression in the tournament.
I think that's a very interesting development, and again now delving into the fields of sports. So Afghanistan's head coach talked to media and he said that all focus is on the match against the Australia. Jonathan Trott, the head coach of the Afghanistan's cricket team, praised the players' dedication and hard work ahead of the crucial match against Australia. Speaking at a news conference in Lahore, Trott stressed the team's focus on upcoming game, highlighting Ibrahim Zadran's memorable 177-run innings. He also mentioned the team is addressing its shortcomings and gaining valuable experience, and expressed confidence that Afghanistan has the potential to qualify for the Champions Trophy semi-finals. And I think Afghanistan may have surprised us, but it's good that, how the players who were trained on our land are performing so well. And it's very unfortunate that our own team is out of the tournament. And it's not that Pakistani team did not perform well in the past. It was one of the best team. But I think there's not a lot of need for the soul searching to do and ask some very uncomfortable questions.
It's even debatable, because imagine that even within the last ICC tournament, we weren't able to qualify. Even in this ICC tournament, we weren't able to qualify. And then Akif Javed Sab comes up and he says that, that, oh, you know what, this is the best team that we actually kind of selected. So I think it's debatable, and probably we need to move on now. It's just, it cannot just be cricket now. I think we really need to speak about Noor Dastagir, but we really need to speak about Arshad Nadeem. We need to speak about all of those amazing people in contact sports and whatnot, and promote them equally.
Right. I think Shehzad is deeply hurt by the performance of the cricket, but I think that's very understandable because this is the game that a lot of Pakistanis are invested in. But now we will move on to the power of storytelling and power of humanizing the small phenomena and explaining our deeper economic phenomena through the lens of more humanized approach, the approach of the storytelling. And in this digital century, the digital age, no one can deny that how much storytelling or humanized version can resonate with our hearts, with our emotions, and we will definitely delve into this particular genre of filmmaking, that is also the documentary filmmaking. We are very glad that we have been joined by a very amazing filmmaker who has done some amazing work in terms of the storytelling. He happens to be SHAHEEN DILL RIAZ. Assalamu alaikum, sir, and thank you so much for joining us.
Wa alaikum assalam. Thank you for inviting me.
Absolute pleasure, sir, hosting you. I've seen your films, I've seen their trailers, but for audiences, explain to them, what are some of the common themes that you have explored in your documentary, and why have you particularly focused to expose the evils of capitalism that have reared a very ugly, cruel manifestation of the form or face in subcontinent region?
Well, inspiration came from my study because I started as a student of cinematography in a film school in Germany. So I learned how to observe things with camera and especially documentary footage. And that's the way I discovered this genre documentary as a form of storytelling. I was not really particularly interested about documentaries, but in this course of learning in cinematography, I really got the pleasure of observing with cameras. And that led me to make my own films. Even I was a cinematographer, I started making my own films already in the film school, and that's the way I started my career. And I think my concentration is focused on working people, especially who are working physically and in the nature and also in the industry. So the confrontation between individual human being and either the huge powerful nature and on the other hand, the huge, powerful system of capitalism.
Exploitative system, exactly. But sir, in your documentaries, especially the one that was sent to us, you focused on the two particular, I would say, case studies. One is about the iron cutting, the shipwrecking business, and the second one deals with the bamboo cutting. And I think these both are very laborious tasks, and how particularly the common people, the ordinary people are forced to bear the brunt of that, and that too in a very minimal wages. And there's a very exploitative, greedy system, greedy bosses who are on the head, who are reaping the benefits of their labor, right?
Yeah.
So why particularly focus on these two case studies?
Because they are most vulnerable part of the society and most vulnerable sector of laborious work. The industrialization is getting very complicated, and we are now having automations. We are now going to have AI invested and implemented in every sector of our life. That's why these people who are working physically, they are really exposed to a severe form of exploitation. And unfortunately, in this region of our world, the states are not doing enough to protect these people. Our system is really sacrificing them, more or less. You can see in these both films that they are exposed to this exploitation, and the system itself is not really doing enough to protect their rights.
And which is why, Shaheen bhai, in addition to this, I think that's something which I do see that, that accomplished documentary or filmmakers, what they do is that they would actually pick up on topics where there will be, a lot of rebellion from the trillion-dollar industry that you were actually trying to highlight, number one. Number two, we have seen how, even not just from Bangladesh or even from Pakistan, we have seen how there were documentaries which were being made, which really did not bring a lot of good name to the country, but people were rewarded with Oscars too. Now, do you think that as a documentary filmmaker, it is essential for you to kind of pick up on such a topic, which might not bring a lot of good name to the country, but might highlight you as a documentary or filmmaker?
I think I always highlight the strength of the human being, and also it is true in my film there are some kind of discomfort when
Yeah.
you see the situation of the workers, but at the same time, I never ever accuse anybody. I try to make the film in a way that the audience come closer to the protagonist and they feel for them. It is not a matter of accusing somebody and try to blame somebody,
Yeah.
rather to make people sensible for these people,
So
because
that they can have a better understanding of what the problem is.
exactly
So
the system itself will see the situation and they
Yeah.
will be interested to make it better.
Yeah.
Right. And Shaheen, so yes, that's a very interesting. But when you made those documentaries, number one, which were your target audiences? Because I do believe by exposing the ills of the capitalism, you wanted some sort of change to take place, right? So was it addressed to the Bangladesh higher authorities, or generally, you know, it was an awareness sort of a driver? You want to make people aware that how the capitalism, this uglier manifestation of that, is affecting the common people, the ordinary people.
Yeah.
And if it's not addressed, there will soon be a rebellion against that system.
Yeah. You know, I try to make films in the context of emotional status.
Okay.
You know, it's not information. I don't make films in a journalistic way. My films are actually for a wider audience, and most of my films were made in Europe and they were released in cinemas and then to the television. So we work for big screen, and our aim of the entire team is to emotionalize the entire process, so that it's not really about information, it's not about accusing or highlighting some problems, it's rather make audience sensible and emotionally closer to the situation.
Yes.
So it's a more holistic approach.
Exactly,
Yeah.
and people see where the human actually standing there.
A more humanized
Yeah,
approach.
exactly.
So your documentary was very interesting, and especially that of the iron cutter. And there was a very powerful line, and it talked about the feeling of being unwanted is the most, you know, the modern disease that is
Yeah.
stalking the planet, right?
No chlora,
So-
no cancer, no nothing. But
yeah, it's the feeling of being unwanted.
Yeah.
So what makes you think that's a modern disease? I don't think so, that this feeling of unwanted is something which is very particular to this modern century. It has been here for, you know, as long as the human beings inhabited this planet.
Of course not, you're 100% right. And this statement of this ship-breaking yard owner
Yeah.
actually goes against him, because it is absolutely wrong the way he's putting the entire thing. We always use this excuse that this is a big privilege to let people work,
Right.
otherwise they will be starving.
Yeah.
And this is the argument of the exploitator anywhere in the world. They try to use it as an excuse, but the point is that how you are actually using these people, and what is the work, what is the condition, can he leave from that,
Yeah.
and his life is in danger. All these matters are connected to
Yeah,
it.
and how you're actually trying to kind of, you know, fake it in front of the world as well, you know, because that's exactly what I thought, you know, for this gentleman to come in a 4x4 and say all of this. I was like, okay, that does not matter. But now very quickly, Shaheen, what I would want to talk about is the evolution of cinematography, the equipment that we have been using, the story, the art of storytelling has evolved manifolds, the attention spans have shortened as well. You know, so, you know, for somebody who actually went to Germany to study cinematography, and that too now in 2025 is sitting right in front of us, how do you think that things have evolved? Now we do see how there are AI models, and probably in days to come, probably artificial intelligence will be generating films and music and audio, everything for us, right? We might not even have to do it. So how do you see that the art of filmmaking has actually evolved, the equipment have evolved, and do you think that people, for example, just like you know, because you've been in the field for so long now, do you think that people are able to pick up on it easily? Do you think people have to go back, study, and then come back and then kind of do whatever magic that they've been doing for the screen?
Study is, of course, unavoidable. I mean, everybody has to study in his own field, but the shift is really enormous in the
Yeah.
last 20 years. When I started my film career,
Huge cameras.
exactly, huge cameras, and we were at the beginning happy to see a camera, let alone touching it, you know. And now people are having their cameras in their hand every time,
Yeah.
24/7. And you can see that people are not only watching things and consuming things, they are producing things.
True,
they are making films, they are making reels, and that goes viral. And people are already have this know-how, how to tell stories. So the actual reaction comes as an audience to the makers, that they try to judge things in a different way, because now they know how to make a film, how to tell a story.
Yeah.
And by the way, the storytelling is very unique quality of human being. This is the only species that really needs to tell stories and hear stories.
And Right, and that's a very interesting conversation because nowadays you will see on the digital spaces there are a lot of people, common ordinary people who are digital natives, but they have started their own podcast, right?
Exactly.
They are broadcasting their own lives on the social media, and people are actually tuning to that. So
Yep.
the viewing habits of the audiences have changed a lot, right? And in this entire fulcrum, where do you see the art of storytelling going? Do you feel that if someone who is not a mature or an amateur sort of a storytelling, that might degrade the quality, the real quality of the storytelling as compared to someone who has learned that, who has invested his professional time and capacity into acquiring that skill, someone like you, right?
Yeah. As an interesting development, the question is really very, very interesting in the context of modern way of storytelling, because I see the development of storytelling have changed because the people are more interested now not really constructing a story, rather observing the reality.
Yeah.
This is really more close to documentaries, what
A
we do.
relatability experience,
Exactly,
right? Yeah.
exactly. And we live in a time and space we are actually living every day, and we are generating raw materials. If you observe our own life, they are just raw material that doesn't really make any sense.
Yeah.
And the art of storytelling is basically people want to make sense out of this life.
Exactly. But Shaheen bhai, in addition to this, what I've seen is that, that the market is saturated now. And it's because of the fact that now, where earlier there were always professional filmmakers to come out and, share the story of whoever wants to share a story. Now we are hiring influencers. And we might not even know what they've done in their life or not, and they're there to speak about a subject which they might not even, or have little knowledge about. How do you think that this contrast has actually kind of created a divide within the audiences of, original documentaries that we used to see? For example, I have to mention National Geographic over here. We grew up seeing documentaries of how they would chase these animals for probably 2 years, 10 years and 12 years, and the entire family, and now all of a sudden there's this influencer speaking about how, we really need to protect animal rights, and not knowing about the subject. So for you as a filmmaker, how important is the subject itself? How much research needs to go into it? And how do you think that that there's a divide now within the audiences?
It's absolutely important, because if a blogger or a YouTuber trying to focus on a subject, he himself also have to do the research. But of course, the capacity of an individual is not that high as National Geographic or Channel 4 or BBC. So the range of going deep into the matter is varying from person to person.
And what damage is that doing?
Well, I wouldn't say it's damage. It's just that it is making things accessible for people who didn't have this access. Because, you can access some portion of the society as an individual even better than a professional team. If you want to have a very intimate story of a remote area of Pakistan, you cannot have a BBC team going there and do it. You have to send some Pakistani speaking the language and having this cultural
localized
affinity.
Culture. So I think that brings us to very important conversation in that if you see, compare and contrast the two different eras. So for example, before the social media, you will find the storytelling techniques or documentaries, they're very sort of long, right? And they have a focus to it. But now we are living in this digital century where attention spans are very shrink because of this reel culture, 1 minute reel, right?
Exactly.
And if people don't find it interesting, they would, just scrap away, or they would swipe it away, right? So how do you feel that in this century of the shrink attention span, the real message of the storytelling, it's somehow dying, or it has been damaged because of the shrink attention span? People do not just want to listen to the real stories. That was the case before. And you see that also in the filmmaking. Earlier the films were very, very long, 3 hours, 3 hours and a half, 30 minutes, something like that. But now there's just, 60 minutes or even lesser than that, right? And how do you feel that the quality has degraded in this entire transition from the non-digital towards this digital century?
Well, I think if you compare with the long formats, of course, the quality is different of the short, very, very small time span that you have by reels, for example, or shorter visual production. But at the same time, I would say that people will be too much saturated, and they would have enough after a certain time, and they will eventually have this yearning for this longer way of storytelling. And I think it will come back, and both will probably exist certain time parallelly. and people will decide what they would like to see in the long run, of course.
Exactly. And very quickly towards the end, so 2 last questions, and that is number 1, for example, I have seen how filmmakers now want to reach out to, these digital devices, mobile phones. So it's not biggest screen now. And number 2, how are my brothers and sisters in Bangladesh?
Well, Bangladesh is going to a transition period and they are doing well. I think that in terms of filmmaking, it is in Bangladesh and Pakistan more or less same condition.
Yep.
We are struggling with this challenge of, our audience were very much into cinema.
Yeah.
So the cinema is shrinking, it's shifting to the platform of streaming and internet. So they are preparing themselves to be adaptable to this new industry.
Exactly. But thank you so much, Shaheen bhai, for being with us. Thank you so much for coming down to Pakistan. Thank you so much for taking out time for our show. Lovely to have you over here, and may you continue to prosper and share more documentaries with the rest of the world as well. Thank
and that too with the human touch. Once again, thank you so much. And now we will move on to very interesting news, and that is that Angel of Mercy, also known as Pakistan's Abdul Sattar Edhi, is remembered on his birth anniversary. He was a great philanthropic, ascetic, humanitarian, and the founder of Edhi Foundation. Abdul Sattar Edhi was born in February 28, 1928 in Gujarat, India. He migrated to Karachi, Pakistan after partition. He established Edhi Foundation in 1951 in Karachi, which ran purely on the private donations. Edhi's charitable activities expanded greatly in 1957 when an Asian flu epidemic swept through the Pakistan and rest of the world. Donations allowed him to buy his first ambulance the same year. He later expanded his charity network with the help of his wife Bilkis Edhi. Today, Edhi Foundation runs the biggest ambulance and orphanage network across Pakistan. Abdul Sattar Edhi, also called Angel of Mercy due to his selfless services for mankind across the country. Moreover, he also helped people in need without the discrimination of religion and sect. He passed away on July 8, 2016 due to a kidney failure, and I would like to say that that was the biggest loss, a vacuum that was caused because of Pakistan.
Exactly, and meanwhile our guest was trying to settle down, which is why you were able to see his hair, and now the shoe as well. So I'm actually going to request you to move your other leg the other way as well, so that nobody can see the shoe. But while we are at it, ladies and gentlemen, I'm going to come back to my guest. But imagine where the world is going. The Shanghai AI Industry Association organized the 2025 Global Developer Conference, which was attended by a large number of people from the developer communities worldwide. The conference displayed the latest technology, but what caught the audience interest was a humanoid taking its robotic dog for a walk. Really, it's like 2 robots going out for a walk. I mean, that'll be such a different sight to see. The humanoid and the dog were created by Unitree Robotics and were center of attention. I mean, why would they even need a walk? That's what I don't get. This is such a different concept. Why do humans want robots to be indulged in the same activity which is important for humans? Walk is not important for robots. I mean, or is it? So I think that the people who are actually developing all of these robots really need to think whether what they are creating these robots for. Probably the humanoid can actually take a real dog for a walk, or the dog can take a humanoid robot for a walk, or something of that sort.
Yeah, and I think this is more of the emulation of the human behavior, and sometimes there's a lot of scare around these robots dominating. And I think there was the crowd in the China in which a robot attacked a crowd there, a girl there, and a lot of people on the social media said, so it begins, right? The doom and the gloom surrounding the the machines, dominating the human beings. But we will save that topic for some other day. Now we are going to move to our guest, and we are going to talk about the leadership strategies for the sales success. So in order to unfold this conversation, we are very glad that we have been joined by ASAD Malik. Assalamu alaikum, and thank you so much for coming to us.
Walaikum assalam.
So it's wonderful to have you over here. Thank you so much for joining us. A great, good-looking gentleman, early morning, fresh, and I think it sets the vibe right. So first of all, let's get started with Hasil. And what is Hasil doing? There's so many trainings which are taking place, so many elderly people so happy to take certificates from you. Please take us through.
Actually, thank you very much, first of all, for having me here today. And I am in the industry from last 18 good years.
Wow.
Primarily served 95% of my time working for the multinational companies. Even right now I'm doing that. I'm heading one of the markets for Asia Pacific for one of the global brands. Apart from that, back in Feb 2024, I started this concept Hasil. So what Hasil means, Hasil is, you know, connecting public value at large with their ultimate purpose.
Okay.
You know, so there is a lot of doing for the sake of doing. We start doing, you know, there's a lot of rat race. So we really want people to connect with their own original color connection, which is altogether can be different from the million colors around you.
True.
So that was the first true organic
But
purpose.
it's still very hard for audiences to kind of understand what you're trying to explain.
So
you know, they
I'll
can
come
be-
to
yeah,
the point.
yeah.
So we train people on Hasil is actually Hasil.
Whatever you want.
Yes.
Whatever is
So-
la hasil for you,
yes.
go get and hasil
So if
it.
you build a home,
Yeah.
if you spend money on it, and if that person is not there who you want to live with,
Yeah.
then actually that hassle is missing.
So टूटे हुए दिलों के लिए आप सहारा है.
Yes, you can say that. So I am the Devdas of the professionals working in the industry. So we do deliver trainings on leadership, brand persona, and sales.
Yeah.
So by far in less than a year, we have delivered 24 trainings,
There's been
face-to-face
95%
workshops.
feedback on that as well,
Yes.
alhamdulillah. And it's great, you know, which is why I actually came across this picture where you were like, you know, selling ice cream to people who live in Eskimos, right? Now imagine that, you know, that we have actually grown up with a strategy. I'm not putting you to test, but, you know, I would certainly want to kind of, you know, get that feel of where you say that, you know, hey, you know what, whatever you want to reflect upon, you can get it, right? That's the major concept. Now imagine that we've always grown up with the concept of, can you please sell me this pen, right? I want you to share it with people that it's not actually about selling the pen to the people, but rather creating a need for the pen for them to write. Please go ahead.
Actually, howsoever, if you have an eyesight problem and you go to a doctor, how many technology have been upgraded by far? There is one very typical exercise every doctor tells you to do. That, you know,
Pado
look
beta
at,
samne pado.
the finger
Yeah.
and work on your, it will improve your eyesight power, you know, looking at like this. So that's how few things are very fundamental and authentic even after the hundreds of years. Likewise in sales, this philosophy of selling a pen is actually the idea on how to channelize your thought, how to put your thought properly on the table.
Yeah.
For example, these trainings we have delivered selling ice cream to Eskimos.
Yeah.
It was also well attended by doctors
Yeah.
who have nothing to do directly maybe with the sales.
But doctors after MBBS have done MBS too.
Yes.
Yeah. Please.
So the point is everyone who has even the technical qualification, maybe the engineers, the doctors, everyone in the world needs to be properly, you know, dressing up with their words.
Yeah.
You know, dress up your mindset, you know. So if you are going at a Mehndi function and if you are dressing up like a walima, so you need to
But-
dress up aligned your thought.
Right, right. And
कि
Asad,
सलामी देनी है अभी.
right. So Asad, I would like to redirect this conversation towards the digital spaces in the platform. And I think nowadays it has become such an important social aspect, social fabric of our life. We cannot deny it. So, you know, what are you doing on that particular space? And whenever we talk about this gender gap, huge gender gap within the world of the business, no, are you doing something to cater towards it, or this conversation does not like interest you in this your entire endeavor?
We recently delivered a training called Leadership Inclusively Disruptive.
Okay.
So my all of
Disruptive?
disruptive.
Okay.
So when we say disruptive, it's digital disruption. It's the disruption we see uncertainties happening around us, the political disruptions, the technological, the COVID came. So because of the COVID, there were new business models of the future. You know? So maybe we were physically being limited in our homes, but at the same time, because of the digital channelization of the complete ecosystem, we were able to reach to each and every soul around us.
Right, right.
So
And I think there was a lot of saturation post-COVID on the digital platforms.
yes. So when we deliver or create a batch size, we ensure that we have late 40s, means C-suite level, senior thought leadership, mid-career professionals, which are from their mid-20s to mid-30s, and also the young grads. Because maybe the directors, they don't want to sit with the young people, the Gen Z. And this is one of the problems.
True.
When we talk about the knowledge comes when you have acceptance in yourself to learn from your younger ones as well. And the younger ones, Gen Z, also have that attitude that they also want to learn from the old school. Or
That's true.
So we try to make people bit of discomfort and bring them in one room.
Yeah.
Synchronization, and I think that's very important. So now, because you talked about mid-career professional, mid-40s, and I think that's a very important conversation. And so for people who take this professional sabbatical, right, especially for the women, because after they get married, they have kids, so their priority becomes their family. And after a particular gap of the time, they are again, going back to the workforce. So they face certain challenges. The transition might not be easy because their skill set might not be very advanced with the, or corresponding to that environment. So are you doing something to cater towards those people who are taking a professional sabbatical?
The reason we try to, the format of our workshops is very experiential. It's nothing to do with the theory. So I am a believer that the training is a process of an integration of Rumi and chumps.
Okay.
So whatsoever we talk in the theory has to be walk the talk.
True.
So if you create walk the talks around you, so anyone, any women sitting at home can create an impact by even being, working on something even from home. So nothing stops. There's an example, charity begins at home.
Right.
I have many stories back in my home as well,
Right, right.
where you create or enable people to an extent that they don't wait for anyone to come to them.
True.
But Asad, I think we also need to, discuss this essential question of the efficacy of the trainings, right? So, for example, in XYZ organization, you are delivering, let's say theoretically speaking, on the toxicity environment, or or how generally, how to create more synchronization or harmonization within the departments, because there's a lot of interdepartmental jealousies and rivalries going on. But after the training, you're putting, if in the same circumstances, in the same environment, I don't think so that that is a very efficient mode of the training, right? And I can say that for a lot of organizations. So yes, you might change their mindset, so instill few important things or techniques, but then they are coming back to the same environment, to the same influence, right?
Yeah, because you're modifying behaviors, you're not modifying the environment they're working
the
in.
bosses are still the same, the environment is still the same. So, how do you then check the efficacy of that training?
I think infrastructure alone is simply infrastructure. People create the culture.
Absolutely.
That is the first thing. Second thing is that leadership never always comes from the top. In the new disruptive world, the leadership is in every corner of the room.
Thank you.
So the leader of today is agile, disruptive and bold, and is also like, if you have seen the movie Mission Impossible, where Tom Cruise is just on the cliff on the bike, and he cannot see what's coming ahead, and he jumps over the cliff with the bike.
Yeah.
It's a very famous scene. And then there's a James Bond. So today's leader is in every corner. He keeps or she keeps on changing the positions, So it's now gone typical that maybe the leadership trickles from the top and sits on the 14th floor. The leadership is on the ground zero, on the battleground, on the general boardroom as well. So it has to be strategized in a way. So that's how, when you will start thinking this way. So before becoming, everyone in the cricket team wants to become a Babar Azam when he will be a captain of the team.
Ab nahi. Bhajan, ab nahi.
Dukti Rage Shehzad.
I'll give another example.
I'll give an
example. So I am trying to say that
ab to Babar khud keh raha hai, mujhe king mat bolo.
People try to act like a CEO when they will become CEO.
True.
I learned from my mentor that you need to act like a CEO before becoming CEO.
Exactly. And in addition to this, I think because you are here, we want to take advantage of this opportunity. Now imagine that we have been raised in an environment where we have never had the idea of what we're going to do in our lives. Probably, and this is a very famous question that people are being asked of, where do you see yourself in the next 5 years? I mean, when anybody and everybody used to ask me this question, I was in school or college, I would be like, I want to be a father, something of that. So whatever has inspired me back then. Now, how do you think that people, because you bring them together in a room where there are people who are CFOs, CEOs, and they are, mid-careers, and then there are people who are actually initiating with their careers, yes. how do you think that people really need to kind of have a standard line or thought process where they at least know what they want to do? Because over here, ये तो hit and trial है, लग गया तो लग गया जी, मैं करके देखता हूँ, हो गया तो हो गया. So how do you how would you want to educate our audiences that, hey, you know what, if you're still struggling with what you need to do, what's your best advice on that?
I think your fundamental should be very clear. The clarity of thought. If you have that, your principal objective will always keep on elevating. Your basic kalma. You need to be right with your definition of who you are as a person. What are you trying to do on this planet Earth, and what you are trying to contribute to? If you have these three things clear, rest will keep on coming. There's a very famous song by Naira Noor where she says that उस वक्त मुझे भटका देना जब सामने मंजिल आ जाए. So the objective is about excellence.
It's not
you never reach there. It's the journey itself.
And thank you so much for being with us. And this wraps up our conversation beautifully well as well. Thank you so much, Mr. Asad, for joining us. I've always loved people, and it's very rare that I come across people, who actually have the same mindset as I do as well. Because it's more about experience. People do talk about theory and whatnot. But I think everybody, whenever Allah actually gives you an opportunity, what you really need to do is seize it and make sure that every single day you're giving it your 100%.
Right, and we're going on a short break. After we come back, we have an interesting discussion lined up. Don't go anywhere. Good morning.
Good morning. All right, ladies and gentlemen, welcome back. Thank you so much for staying tuned. We're certainly talking about football now over here. And there's a reason why we're talking about football. Now imagine for people like me or probably Hajra, we might not be able to run like an entire football field. So there's mini football which is being introduced.
But I also think that, Shehzad is really disappointed from the cricket. So now he wants to redirect his focus towards football. But in order to unfold our conversation, we are very glad that we have been joined by the former international football player. He happens to be MUBASHER SANJRANI. Assalamu alaikum, and thank you so much for coming to our show.
Wa-assalam. Thank you so much.
Wash Malay.
So MUBASHER, let's unfold this conversation. Football, right? And mini football, and you are very invested in the idea of promoting it. Why football? Why not cricket? I think I know the answer partly to it, but yes.
Well, actually, when I was too young, I used to live in Madrid, Spain. And then I started to play football and futsal when I was like 5 years old.
Right.
So football is something that, it is in my blood. And I love to play, and then we come back to Pakistan. Unfortunately, the level of the game was not the same as like in Spain. But football is something that, and I think in Pakistan we have a lot of potential in football, but we don't have professional people with the game. We don't have a professional management as well, and the platform. So my idea, because now, is to promote futsal and football in Pakistan. Like mini football is a new game, although it's not a new game, but in Pakistan it's yes. But the idea is to promote and give a platform to the upcoming players.
Right.
Exactly. But Sanjrani sahab, in addition to this, I think just last year it was great for Pakistan to actually host, I think, 2 qualifier matches over here. On behalf of FIFA, I think it was Oman and Qatar, who actually came down to Pakistan to play against Pakistan, and unfortunately we did lose. So it's obviously the quality of our players and how people are being managed and looked after. So do you think that introducing another sport, which is half of the sport which we actually play, will help our players to kind of be good at the main sport?
Well, actually, what I think is when a child goes to the school, it start from A, B, C and those things. In Pakistan, the problem that we have in football, what I have seen with my experience, the boys start to play, or even the girls start to play when they are 12 or 13 years old. But if we say about the European countries or the Latin countries, they start to play like at the age of 5. So there is a huge difference. And in Pakistan, never anyone understood the situation of grassroots level, which are the youngest one, starting from 5 years. So mini football actually helps to create a player and futsal. So we were, in Pakistan in the reverse scene, that, we start to play football in the age of 13, 14 years. And grassroots level, mini football or the futsal game is basic, the concept for a footballer. If we see about the Ronaldinho or many other players, they start to play futsal and then they become footballers.
Right. And MUBASHER, whenever we talk about football in Pakistan, I think one place that comes into mind is Liari, because Liari is a huge fan of the football, and I think they have lots of talent there. So when you talked about this mini football, right, which are particular areas from which you are recruiting, how do you see that talent, you know, and polish that talent so that they can participate. And I do believe that you're also going to some championship, right?
Yes, we are going to participate for the next week. We are traveling to Sharjah.
Wonderful.
We are going to participate in Asian mini football championship.
Wow.
Wonderful.
And yesterday there was qualifying draws for the matches, and we are going to play against India as well for the first time over there. So it's going to be a lovely, you know, match.
Wishing you best of luck.
Yeah. And what is
Thank
the
you so much.
duration of the game? Is the duration 90 minutes?
No, it's like 25 minutes each half.
Okay, so
Okay.
25 minutes each half,
Yeah.
and you know, 6 players.
6 players. Yes, we have rolling
aside?
substitute as well.
Okay, how many substitutes can you do in?
You can have as many. There's
Really?
No, yeah, because mini football or the futsal game is much, you know, in a terms of stamina is skillful than football.
Okay,
Yeah.
okay.
Yeah, because in football, a small example to you, in football, when you receive a ball, you have a time to see, you have a time to pass.
True.
But in mini football, futsal, you have to think before the ball coming to you, what you have to do with the ball.
Requires your thinking reflex.
Exactly,
Strong thinking.
exactly.
Yeah.
That's how it is mini football. And regarding Liari, of course, is I call Liari mini Brazil. Yeah, because there was a time when I used to work with the Brazilian embassy, and I spoke with the ambassador about mini Brazil, and he was surprised to know, and then he saw some of the videos, and he asked me, Muba, can we send some footballs uniform of Brazil to Liari? And I remember that I visited Liari for the footballs.
Oh, interesting.
So, and I have the honor to bring some Brazilian futsal coaches to Pakistan,
Wow.
Interesting.
and I took them to Liari.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah, and they were lovely, you know, to see them, their faces, they were happy. And the coach also, he said to me, it seems like I'm in Brazil, because the culture, the players, their style was like Brazilians.
Well,
Exactly.
Mubasher, I think it's very important you highlighted this point that, you know, it requires a strong thinking reflexes, right? And we have done multiple shows in which we have seen that how kids nowadays, they are not developing a very fine motor skills because of their excessive engagement to the screens, right? So do you feel in this era where, you know, we are witnessing, because we grew up watching, playing a lot of physical sports and outdoor sports, but our children, they are deprived from, unfortunately, from this sort of the environment. So do you believe that this football can also, or futsal that you're talking about, can bridge that gap when we talk about a screen-friendly environment for our kids?
Yes, that's true. And to be optimistic about this question is about the parents. Because the parents are those that have to bring the kids to the grounds. It's not sending them with the drivers or just, you know, with someone else. And that's the difference.
Right.
I have 3 kids, 3 boys, and
Right.
they are crazy with the football.
Oh,
And
interesting.
whenever I am in the academy, I go for the matches, they go with me.
Right.
So my father said, Mubasher, you have given the virus to them. I said, Papa, this is a good virus rather than having cell phones and, you know,
True, true.
tabs.
Yeah,
Digital
that's true.
virus, yeah.
So that's the thing. I think so. The parents, like in this kind of situation, they have to go with the kids, play with them, you know, because what I have seen, if there's interest of these, you know, children to play football, then they will go, you know. in
And
that
it's a
direction.
different time now as well. Now imagine that, you know, when we were kids, you know, so we were so eager to go outside and play ourselves.
Right.
Now I do believe that parents will actually have to put in an extra effort as well. But thank you so much, Sanjrani sir, for being
Thank
with
you
us.
so much.
Lovely to be in
Thank you so
conversation
much.
with you,
Sure.
and may Allah actually give you whatever you're asking in terms of futsal and mini football,
True.
and you know that kind of development that we get to see in Pakistan. And we hope and pray that one day, inshallah, Pakistan football team will be somewhere in the international arena as well. Until next
Ameen.
time,
Ameen.
look after yourselves. Jummah Mubarak. Remember us and our entire team in your prayers. Write to us on worldthismorning@ptv.com.pk. Until next time, look after yourselves. Allah Hafiz. Jummah Mubarak.
Allah
Bye
Hafiz.
bye.